Good morning and welcome to Morning Coach. Today, I am so glad you're with us. Hey, it's JB, and I'm super pumped you're here to get started. It is April 24th, 2025. It is a Monday, episode 5673, and we got a great week planned. We really do. Just for those of you who've been with me, you know, it's a marathon week for me. This Sunday is my Toledo Marathon. I'm going to make that attempt to qualify for Boston. I'm feeling really good. We've got obviously some discussion about that training and how it relates to life and really setting a big goal, a vision, you know, and when it looks at, you know, when we look at mission and vision in our planning system, the idea is to have that vision of who you want to become. You don't have to be a marathon runner. What do you want to become? What are the things you want to do? And it's such an important part in manifesting and bringing things into your life is really believing and changing as a person, right? Becoming that new person. And that's where we talk about in our morning ritual, taking time for self-care, loving yourself, doing things that are going to help you, doing things that will move you forward. You know, we've got the new longevity planner. We've got the new longevity section. We're going to be bringing more and more to that. I've asked Dr. Paul to do some interviews. We're going to do some meetups, really because health is such an important part of this. And as we bring that new stuff in, ILD and longevity, and also some of the AI ideas, we want to make sure, you know, you're getting what you need. And longevity, it's so important. That self-care is really critical, okay? And then obviously listen to CoachCast. You're here doing that, so you're checking that box. And then we want to get organized with the planner. Either, hey, if you're doing the Get It Done Now planner, great, or if you're using our longevity monthly or annual planner, you know, looking at your food, looking at your training, we'll be obviously bringing a lot more on that training in the near future, but using those planners to get yourself structured and organized. We're going to be bringing more on the AI side because I'm using my Plod device, I'm using AI as far as ChatGPT, and then I'm using the planning system. If you look up in the system, we're going to be bringing you more of that to give you some ideas. But here's the critical thing about planning, about all of this, is about you developing the system that works for you. What works best for you? There is no cookie cutter process. We're going to give you tools, but the concept and everything that we do, whether it's longevity and health, whether it's intelligent life design, whether it's AI, whether it's MorningCoach, and all the other ideas we're bringing you, the whole objective here is to build an individual system for you. I'm going to bring you the energy every day. I'm going to give you tools. We're going to talk plan, do, check, act. But all these ideas, all these concepts, the community, everybody bringing together is to get you a system that works for you, that's unique to you. Okay, so I'm going to give you ideas and thoughts, but just as I'm trying to qualify for Boston this Sunday, and I'm going to do it, right? You've got to figure out what you're going to qualify for. What are the things that you're going to do? And it may be better, hey, I want to become a better father, a better mother. I want to, you know, whatever that is, right? That's your vision of who you're becoming. Let's work on that. Okay, so we do that by planning, and then obviously we have our 7 Ps, which are really important, having that right perspective. And that means getting your mind right to start the day. That's why we're here. That's one of the takeaways from Morning Coach. If you haven't been here in a while, that's okay. Just jump back on and start listening. And then set the daily priorities. This is so critical. Like, it's so critical that the prioritization is set. Like, what are you working on? And I get that question, how do I know? You look at your mission and you look at your vision. Okay? Look at your mission and vision and then prioritize based on that. Say no to things that aren't going to help you with your mission or not going to help you achieve your vision. Very simple, okay? Then we're going to focus on improved performance, and that's in all areas of life. We just want to get a little better. We don't have to be great. We just got to be a little better than we were yesterday, whether it's financially, whether it's health-wise. That's really what it's about. That's what I want to motivate you to do. And then have patience. This is a big one for me. You know, last week we had the AI send out a bunch of emails, and, you know, you can tell who's done things and who hasn't. Nobody really complained, which was great here at Morning Coach. I mean, it was Edna and Michael, and it was this new software that I'm trying to use, and it sent out emails. Basically what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to look at who's on the website, right? Somebody visiting the website, they don't buy anything, so he sends a nice email saying, hey, John, nice to see you stop by. Here's some of the benefits. Really great process, but it bugged out and sent tons of emails out. But people have patience, and that's what I appreciate. I appreciate the membership here because we need to have patience, and you need to have patience in everything you're doing. Not everything is perfect. Nothing that I know is perfect. In fact, it's jazz, and we'll talk more about that this week. But be patient, okay? Be patient with everything, your own plan. Be patient with yourself. And then we want to keep great posture, get those shoulders back. And I like postures like showing up. Like when I go to run Sunday, I'm going to have my nice gear on. I'm going to be ready to go. And I'm excited about that, right? And I want to look good and feel good as I get to my race. And then we want to stay present. We want to stay in the moment. That's really critical. And then we want to persist. We want to keep taking it on day by day. That's a really important part of it. Because as we get into today's topic, little break here. Hey, you want to get all this energy, wonderful community, so much with MorningCoach.com and things we do. Head over to MorningCoach.com, click that join button. You can get this every single day, this energy. You can do the morning ritual with us and really get some structure and organization. We're bringing ILD in, which is Intelligent Life Design. It's a $2,000 program that I do every year in June. Instead of doing that, we're going to bring it into Morning Coach, which is awesome. We have a new longevity section. We have a new AI section. It is a great place to get energy, organizations, and your systems organized. And all you have to do is go over and click the join on morningcoach.com and get started. All right, back to the show. What I want to talk about is creating versus surviving. And this week, we're going to talk a little bit about that idea of creating. Tomorrow, we've got the book study, The Psychology of Money. We're going to finish that. Wednesday, we've got mental toughness. We're going to talk about that because it's a big part of marathon running. And then we're going to talk about a taper. And what is a taper? And how do we use it in life? And what does that work with? Okay. Friday, we've got focusing on what you have and believing and getting after it. A little motivational day there. And then, of course, we have Saturday with Dr. Paul, where we're working on longevity and all his wealth of information for those of you that are working on that. And then Sunday, we got the race. We're going to talk about the race day, and my goal of a 3:25 qualifier for the Boston Marathon. So we're going to talk a little bit about that on Sunday, even though that's also our time a day, which is so critical. But I'm excited you're here this new week. We're ready to go and get after it. We're going to shift from surviving to creating today. That's our topic. And understanding what does that mean? And years ago in the early days of Morning Coach, I was stuck in survival mode. The bills were piling up. I was exhausted. I was working just to keep things going. No vision, no plan, just reacting. And then one morning while journaling, I asked myself, JB, are you just trying to survive this day, or are you building something for your future self? Again, remember that vision. And that question changed my life. From that day forward, I committed to being a creator, no matter how small the step. And so when you shift to creation energy, things start moving, new ideas come, new people show up, and systems get built, and prosperity follows. So the idea is so many of us consume, and we're always going to be a consumer, right? That's part of it. You're always going to be consuming things. We're going to consume content. We're going to consume TV shows. We're going to consume media reports. We're going to consume all kinds of things. And the idea is we have to protect our garden from the information and be able to critically think about the information. We got to be careful of getting too emotional about the things that we're getting. And what we really got to do is once we get that emotion out, we've got to create. And how do we know we're in survival mode? How do we know, like when I was in survival mode and I wasn't able to create, I wasn't able to bring the energy to the table? Well, some of the questions or some of the things you might say is, I don't have enough time. That means you're in survival mode. I'll get through this week. Once things calm down, I'll focus. Living in constant reaction with no plan. Feeling drained at the end of the day. These are concepts that make you understand. You're slipping into that. Like you're slipping into survival mode and you can't create. So what I want you to think about today as we go forward is to get into the creator habit. And this is a totally different idea. Like I said, most people are consumers. We're all consumers, but there's very few creators. And I want you to create in anything you're doing. I want you to feel that you're a creator. So this week, here's some things I want you to think about on habits. Ask daily, what am I creating today? Now remember, I'm big on questions. If you ask yourself a question, you're going to get an answer. Okay? If you can answer, and again, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not fat shaming here. I'm just making this a question so you can understand what your brain thinks. If you ask yourself, why am I so fat? Your mind's going to give you answers. It's that simple. Right? We've got to be careful of what we're asking. If you ask yourself, why am I overweight? It's going to give you answers. If you ask yourself, how could I lose a little weight, have some fun, and feel better about myself. You're going to get answers. Okay, so be very quiet, be very cautious of the questions you're asking yourself. I'm on the golf course. This is where I learned it a lot. Is I'd hit a bad shot. I go, why do I suck? And I would get upset. Why do I suck? And that's what I would ask myself. And it would not in verbal, but I'd be like, you're such an idiot. And that self-talk is so important, but specifically those questions. Why do I suck? And believe me, my brain gave me a million answers. If I ask, why am I going to run a 3-hour and 20-minute marathon Sunday? My brain will give me answers. If I ask myself, there's no way I'm going to run 3:25. How the heck am I going to do that? Or, is there, what are the chances of something bad happening on my marathon? My brain is going to give me that information. I don't want that information. I want the information that says, how do I run a 3-hour and 20 marathon? Okay. It's almost like prompts in AI, right? We've got to be careful of our prompts. So ask daily, what am I creating today? And then I want you to start to create before you consume. So if you're getting involved, and this is what I'd love to do with children, right? This is a very important exercise. So before they get into videos, before they watch your TikTok, before they get on Instagram, create, journal, plan, write, organize, and then you can go watch a video. I've gotten in some pretty bad habits myself with YouTube. I love YouTube. I've built YouTube and I kind of stepped away from it. I need to get back to that at the end of this month because I've been focusing on Morning Coach, but I need to do more of it because I want to create. And I've been consuming a little too much. Okay. So journal, plan, write, organize. If you need to, keep a creation journal, write down, track your ideas in progress, whether you do a physical one or you do it on your Remarkable. And then build systems that save you time later, notes, templates, routines. For me, using the Plod device to record things and then taking those recordings and putting it in ChatGPT and building that as a second brain is something that I'm doing. I'll be giving you more of that information in the AI area. You can stop by there. And again, if you've got questions about something you hear, please send it to Tracy at info@morningcoach.com so that I can get it and I can create the content for you. Really important. Okay. So if you're like, hey, I want to know more about that AI and that Plod and that ChatGPT and what are you doing? Let me know and I'll build it. Like I'll build checklists and whatever. That's what we're doing here. Okay. So it's exciting. So build systems that save you time later, notes, templates, routines, second brain systems, and then focus on adding value to yourself or someone else. I want you to be thinking about that consistently. How do I add value to myself today, or how can I make somebody else's day better? You start thinking about that, and all of a sudden you're moving out of survival and you're moving into creation because creation brings energy. So the challenge is to create one thing today that didn't exist this morning. A note of gratitude, a small plan, a new idea, a system that helps you in your life. Be intentional on creation. That's how wealth is created. It's not about duplication. It's about creation. It's about finding things that you bring to the world. As we get into ILD this summer, and I really dive into that, and we start talking about your IP, intellectual property, and the things that you can bring to the world, your imposter syndrome will step in. Guaranteed, it will. And we will talk about how to overcome that. But we've got to create. I'm telling you, it's such a great feeling. I think it's such an issue. Like I think back when I was on the HOA, and many of you remember those days, I had so many entitled people with millions and millions of dollars. They didn't do anything, living in a $10 million mansion, driving the Bentley, playing golf every day, but not creating anything. And they were miserable people. It used to drive me crazy. I'm like, you have everything, but you have nothing because they're not creating. So create one thing that didn't exist this morning. A note of gratitude, a small plan, a new idea, a system that helps you in your life. Be intentional. Think about what can you create. And can you do that before you go consume your emails, before you go consume media, YouTube, before you go consume stuff on your phone? Learn to create before you consume, okay? And if you're consuming constantly and you're not creating, we need to step back and create. This could be just, like I said, little things, a note of gratitude, a small plan, new ideas. Creation is everything that you're doing, not the consuming aspect, okay? So the thought of today is creation is the antidote to fear. Creation is the antidote to fear. And if you're journaling today, here's something to think about. Where am I surviving and how can I shift that to creating? That might be a totally new concept for you. But I want you to think about it. Where are you surviving? And can you shift that to creating? And you'll see it in society. One thing you can watch if you're in social media and stuff is you'll see most people are surviving. They're not creating anything. You can see just by what they're posting and what they're discussing. They're not creating. They're surviving. And if you want true influence, this is really important. Circle this, highlight it, underline it. You need to create. You need to be a creator, okay? And you need to be coming up with new things and new ideas. That's where wealth and energy is really created. And creation is the antidote to fear. So our quote today comes from Abraham Lincoln. It says, the best way to predict your future is to create it. The best way to predict your future is to create it. And that's what we're doing here on Morning Coach. Again, going back to what we started with, having a mission, that's creating a mission. What are you going to do? And a vision. Who are you going to become? Do those fundamental things and watch how your life gets better. Doesn't mean it's going to be better all the time. No, it's a roller coaster. You'll fall down sometimes. But you know what? You get up, you dust yourself off, and you keep moving forward. All right, I love you. Go have a great start of the week. Let's get off this Monday, and I'll be back tomorrow right here on morningcoach.com.